And we're back. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Trouble Boys Club. This week we've got Ana Lynch, who is a life balance coach, helping high performers lead with clarity and conviction. Welcome to the Trouble Boys Club, Anna. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Ryan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you very much. And thanks for your time and agreeing to do this. And I want to say
Absolutely.
thank you as well for how supportive you've been of like the page and how much you interact and engage and share things. And it's honestly, it's wonderful. And we proper appreciate it when people do what you do. So thank you for that.
I I really comes from the heart. I know how much work you guys put into the page, the podcast, and you had fantastic guests as well. So I'm always happy to support people that are out there trying to make a difference and talk, about this sometimes uncomfortable topic that you have, covered so far.
I know we do our best to sort of get into the sort of like darker corners of people's minds, which is it's always fun. It's always fun. So first, I think I wanted to ask you like how you got involved with your particular line of work. Like, have you always been in this sort of vicinity in this realm, or have you had a mixed bag when it comes to like career choices and things?
It has definitely been a mixed bag. Sort of like I talk about this, my past experiences, my in my previous life, I was many, many things. I am a coach now, but yeah, previously I've been anything from starting from a air hostess to a project manager. That was my very early days. That was like when I was in my early teens. So it was exciting journey. It led me into working with IT, which is a completely different, industry than in which I'm working right now. But through that, I met my husband, which I'm very grateful for. And I do believe that, sort of like there is a a way of, sort of like a higher plan somewhere for us all to find each other. So I'm very happy that I went through this journey and eventually it led me to coaching. It was a very big transition because it happened after multiple relocations, after starting my own business, after having my two boys. I have a twin sons. They're now 5 years old. So all of this contributed to me sitting down and being brutally honest with myself. And the honesty was about the fact, what do I want to do? Because previously I believe I was drawn to certain areas because it was profitable, it was at the time convenient, and wherever else a reason. But I was in a situation where I could ask myself, what do I want right now? And yeah, it led me to coaching, and this is me now.
So was it a call and you sort of listened to yourself internally about like wanting to help people? So you'd probably seen being a project manager, that's a very high stress job and things like that, and you figured out ways to sort of cope, and you was like, you know what, I could help people. And is it what?
I was always interested. Yeah, I was always interested in psychology. Always been drawn to that since my teens, actually. But as many of us, when deciding what to do with my life after finishing school, going to university, at the time, for some reason, psychology wasn't, a top profession to go to. So so I was like, oh, I could not possibly do that. But it always stayed with me. I always sort of observe people, always interested why people make certain decisions, what draws them into behaving in what way, one way or the other, including myself, right? Observing myself and saying, why am I reacting to this way and in this situation differently? So through that, I always stayed close to this sort of like topics all the time. And when the decision came, it was basically bringing myself, bringing the awareness back into myself, saying, what do I want to do? And it was about helping people. I ran my own business. I've seen people in high pressure situations. I've seen how sometimes people can get stuck and they don't seem to see way out. Where if you're sitting next to them and they're telling you the story about their life, you can sort of like point them saying, oh, by the way, have you seen maybe this or this option? And a lot of the times people don't because they're stressed, they have loads of sort of like self-limiting, scenarios running through their heads. I couldn't possibly do that. Couldn't possibly allow myself to, change something for the better. And yeah, so coaching was like a perfect profession where I saw that I can improve myself through working with other people and help people see their true potential.
Very, very good answer. So, with the sort of clients that you work with, have you seen or established any sort of patterns that people are coming to you for help with, or is it all quite different, or is there anything that you've noticed that has sort of become quite continuous that people are struggling with at this stage of their lives, or anything like that?
So what I've noticed is a lot of the times people come, well, I can only obviously judge by my own experience, but I've noticed lots of people come with this feeling of being stuck in their lives, stuck in the scenarios that they're in, and again, sort of like not seeing that there is another way, or not allowing themselves to see. They say, well, this is how it has to be, and that story might have been, created since they were kids. They observed that their parents were behaving in a certain way and their grandparents, and they don't see, they don't have a blueprint of possibility for themselves and they wouldn't allow themselves to see that. And so I see a lot of that. And that can happen anywhere from, somebody that's doing, a low level, potentially entry level job to people in the very high positions. They reach, what many would consider a huge success in their lives, but they feel stuck. They feel that they have, they don't know where to go now next and how to get there. They know they want something more, but they just don't know how to get there. And a lot of the times, that also comes to too many choices. So you get this sort of like a decision paralysis, especially these days when we have access to social media and so much, like you go to ChatGPT, ask him a question and gives you like 1,000 options, like of how, what could you do? And that also sort of like freezes people because there's so many options. And I don't think as human beings, the way our brains work, we evolved to have so many ready available great options for us. And that can also be a factor.
So yeah, people stuck on a sort of like hamster wheel of life essentially, and then would you say it's somewhat like have limited beliefs within themselves that sort of like they can't amass to anything because of like what they were told when they were growing up, or they've been seeking approval from that parent all their life, and then they've become an adult themselves and just sort of like carried on with that seeking approval behavior and sort of stuck in a sense of like they don't feel like they're enough.
The limiting belief is a massive factor, and I see that almost on a daily basis when I work with the clients. And that could be, like you said, it could come from childhood, but it could also come from your own beliefs. So we have beliefs that we inherit from our, being kids and observing our families and things that have been said to us, like in passing even. The kids just absorb everything. I have to, and I know that I know for sure it's literally you don't even need to try, especially things that you don't want for them to absorb. They just snap that right up. Or you can even go into your own life and, set these limitations yourself. You might have had a very good, supportive childhood, but when you got to adulthood, you decided that due to some fears, you created this sort of like a box for yourself. Oh, you can only stay within these sort of like lines. You could not possibly, go outside or look outside the box.
Yeah, you put like a metaphorical ceiling over how far you can go in life, not just monetarily, but just like because of like who you are or who you think you are. I'm never gonna get past this job title or whatever, and then you just keep telling yourself that over and over again, and you're wondering why nothing's changing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It spans beyond the income, beyond the role that you're in. Because if you are, let's say, you just, I don't know, entry level, somebody that just left university, your entry level job, and you go in and you with the belief that you can't do a job better than that. That's all you're gonna get. That's also going to sort of echo across your other areas of your life. So whether that's relationships, whether that's fitness, whether that's sort of like your spiritual beliefs, that's all going to have some sort of impact on you. If you are the person that could not possibly, as you said, told yourself, could not possibly be better, basically, I can't be better than I am right now, why try? So that's when you see all sorts of other areas also start declining.
So do you have like one-on-one conversations with your clients? Because I know like technically like you're not a therapist, but is it a form of like you trying to understand them as a person and then take something away from their answers that they give and go, well, from what you just said, it sounds like X or it sounds like Y, and then they begin to understand themselves as a person. Is that the sort of like the early stages of becoming a client of yours?
Absolutely. It's a lot of client talking and sharing where they are right now. And with coaching, it's very important to create this atmosphere, this it's sort of like space where the person feels safe enough to share. And sometimes it can take a couple of sessions. So people obviously don't just, open right up to a stranger, which I would be, to them and start sharing everything. That almost never happens. It happens only when you establish this connection. And that's when, as a coach, the job is to, sort of like observe everything. So not only listen to everything that they say, but also hear the tone of voice, see when it drops and when it peaks, hear when or notice that they started to sort of like look away and, get excited about something and sort of like bring them into that moment saying, what just happened there? Like I saw you when you spoke about this, impossible scenario that you could never achieve, but your eyes lit up and, I could feel like your shoulders open up. What happened? And that's one person could feedback saying, oh, do you know what? I just imagined a picture of me actually doing it after all. And it just feels amazing, you know? And that's just a passing thought, right? They would have completely not stopped and haven't even, noticed it if there wasn't a person there observing and sort of like highlighting that moment for them.
Is that why you're quite big on the checking in with yourself? Not every day because it's quite difficult, but at some point during the week, maybe of having some inner dialogue with yourself, sort of maybe that person, if they did, might have noticed that passing thought and gone, that feels good, but because he or she wasn't in that frame of mind, it's came, their body language has done something, and then it's gone, and nothing, no action would ever come off the back of that had you not pointed it out.
Yes, I do try to again, I'm trying to lead by example. And that's my the biggest thing is that I cannot even allow myself to, sort of like feedback or try to pass on any knowledge that I haven't lived through myself. So I know how it feels to be stuck. I know how it feels to not notice anything and be on a completely autopilot. And when you go into this autopilot mode, you do not make the best decisions for yourself. You make decisions that keep you alive. And this is what our brain does. So when we go into this autopilot mode, the part of our brain, they call it reptilian brain, is the part of our brain which is basically the lowest, like your base instinct is, the freeze and or run instinct that you get, like, oh, you encountered some danger. And they're sort of like ingrained in there. And if you're in autopilot mode, so you're not aware of what's happening, you don't stop to check in with yourself. You're literally running on that, the most basic system, basically. So if you could compare it to a computer, you're running like a completely basic 1990s computer, but it's here, you could have, a state of the art setup for yourself and play, 4K games and, live amazing life, but you choose to, sort of like just live off the basic.
Yeah, no, I suppose that can be a trauma response for some people as well, can't it? That autopilot survival mode, and again, I can empathise with that a lot, resonate with that a lot. Did it myself for probably 20 years of my life and stuff. It is what you say. You operate on a very low frequency of sort of brain activity, and sort of it's just like your basic instinct of staying. That'll keep me alive. I need to eat now. I need to go and go shopping now because or I need to go to work now, and it's this. You're not sort of looking up at the sky and going, wow, or like, oh, isn't it like nice weather outside, or what a lovely dog that's just walked past me, or something like. You're just not aware of fuck all, are you? You're not aware of nothing apart from, I hope I get up tomorrow and live again. That'd be great. So yeah, people can fall into it, and it's so hard to get out of.
Yeah,
Usually has to
absolutely.
happen, doesn't it? Something drastic usually has to happen for the person to sort of snap out of it, and it's usually the person has to come to it by themselves. As much as you'll say to me, Anna, if you're my coach, you need to do X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. Like in a conversation I had with Sam the other week, who was on, he said you can't tell an addict to sort of stop. They need to come to the realization themselves, and then they'll listen because it's come from like within.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. I see that a lot. You can go to therapy, you can go to all sorts of support meetings, you can go to the coach. But if you yourself inside don't believe or do not want to, or even it's not even that always sometimes not wanting or not believing that you can, sometimes you just don't have capacity right now to, go on this journey because to change, that's going to require a lot of your energy. And, subconsciously, I think when we are in this state, low frequency, sort of like survival mode, we don't always know if we have enough, resource. We have just enough to, like you said, go to work, get up, eat, but do we have enough inside of us to then on top of that, bring in some discipline, so our habit, things like that, do we have this capacity mentally, energetically? We don't always do that. And I think, when that happens is, there's a lot of work. It's a journey. They have to go on to get to the place of change. So I can definitely relate and definitely, empathize with people that are, in this position of being stuck right now and not feeling that they have the capacity to change.
Yeah, you have to want to. You have to want because it's so difficult. You know, like making that decision to sort of like, yeah, I want to change is like that's probably 80% of the work done that you've made that decision that you're gonna do it. The rest of it is of the 20%. That's it.
Yeah, I always say the biggest work starts from here. So lots of people talk about habits, and like you see it online on social media and TikTok everywhere. Sort of like all the hacks or how to get fit or how to get into this mindset and that mindset, and it's usually something physical. Oh, you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you go exercise and you do this and that. And it can never happen. And the reason people sort of like they try, they think I do want change, like you see that, pop up on your feed and you're like, I do want change. And you see this blueprint, this is what you do, but it's never gonna get them anywhere. And that's whenever I see these things, I feel so bad because people that do that then walk out of the experience completely heartbroken, thinking that they're not good enough. You see, I didn't stuck with this. I didn't follow through these, crazy 5 a.m. wake up calls and, nonstop 20K steps. But what nobody tells you about because it's hard and it's not doesn't look, as sexy as, all the 5 steps, that you do easily, is that you have to inside here decide and prioritize. Is this a priority for me? How much do I want this? Is this something that, like sort of like it's gonna break my heart if 5 years from now I will be exactly where I am, you know? And this is just this brutal honesty that sometimes we have to bring into the conversation that we have to have with ourselves, and nobody else can do it for us.
That's right. That's right. And as well, people the sort of like TikToks and influencers that put that out there, like I wake up at 4 and I speed read at 4:10, meditate at 4:20.
That's it.
It's like that's great if that works for you, and carry on doing it if you're living your best life and you're mentally stable, stoic as ever. Then congratulations to you. But there are other people in the world who have like children who have like unsociable hours and nurses, firemen, firewomen, or that they can't get up at 4 in the morning and do that. And if you're giving them a blueprint that's one size fits all. Well, there's the problem, isn't it? Because what might help one person might be totally different to someone else. Like, for instance, me, I love reading, well, on Audible, like, so listening.
Yeah.
So if I recommend it to someone just because it helps me to read, and it might not because they're just not interested in that thing, and I think that's another thing that you probably try and help people with, is to understand what makes them tick, like what gets you out of bed, what makes you happy, what makes you motivated. For people it might be their children, for people it might be just their family in general, their wife or their husband, that they want to be better for them because they deserve better or something. Is that another thing you do? Yeah, am I assuming there?
Absolutely. It definitely starts from within. All the work, like you've mentioned before, people usually come in and they unload a lot, the whole story. And in that story, you hear a lot about all the commitments that they have to other people, all the expectations they're trying to meet for others. But there isn't any sort of, even a conversation. I think you mentioned it earlier with your friend. There isn't a conversation about them. What do they want? Did they choose to do this? Is it something part of their sort of like, values potentially, because if you do that, if you value family, you might be really close to your family and do everything for them, but that's going to be coming from within. For you, you'll be doing this for you to them, right? And that's definitely a massive conversation we always unravel to sort of find out which things belong to the person that I'm sitting and talking to, and which things got sort of like borrowed and never returned.
Yeah, no, it's a really good way of looking at it as well. And I seen on your page before as well that you're quite big on. I'm sorry if I mentioned this earlier. I'm pretty sure I didn't. It's about energy and stuff and environment and factors and things like that. That what people surround themselves with, tend to get that back in return. So if you're a bit like, I don't know, glum, and you hate the world and you feel like the world owes you a favor and things like that, and you got a bit of a chip on your shoulder, and that's exactly what you're going to get. It's like the worst self-fulfilling prophecy ever. If you think the world's shit and you're never going to go anywhere, the world will be shit and you're never going to go anywhere. Do you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
yeah, I wanted to ask, because people are quite reluctant to drastic change. They'll come to you and say, "Anna, I want to change. I want to do this." That you'll give them 10 things to do, and they'll go, "Nah, thanks for your time." Because I don't know why. Maybe you can tell me why people have that, like, when they get a lot of things that they can potentially do to improve, they go no.
So there's two topics I hear, and we can unravel both of these because both are very very interesting. So the first one is actually the energy topic, and the energy is something that I always believed because I observed it everywhere, just like all of us. We can see that every time you come in and in a bad mood, not feeling great, it always sort of reflects back at you with something, not very pleasant happening to you. It's sort of a vicious circle because it reaffirms that, yes, things are bad because look, I have approved now because look, bad things do happen to me. And this is something interesting because it's on our physiological level. We all have something called mirror neurons, and they basically mirroring. So whenever we come to close proximity to somebody, their mirror neurons are basically reflecting yours. So this is when you come into the room sometimes, I don't know, in the office or somewhere, and you sort of pick up like some sort of like tension, we all had that. You feel like something is off, somebody argues, what was going on? So there's some sort of conflict happening. Nobody's talking, but you can sense that. And this is not sort of like this some sort of a voodoo thing, it's an actual thing that we all have, and this is why we can, sort of like come come to close proximity to somebody and say, I don't like that person. You don't know why, and not, hasn't done anything. He's not a bad person, but something in there that you picked up. Maybe they're in a bad mood, maybe something happened to them, and you can pick it up straight away. So I would always say to anybody that's interested to do a little experiment is to sort of concentrate on for a day or two, concentrate and even write down if you can all the good things that happened to you, So I don't know, I don't know, you do some work and somebody, being very pleasant and polite in an email that you receive, that's a nice thing that happened, right? You see somebody smiled at you at the checkout, and said, have a lovely day. Notice that. And I don't know why, because I don't know, maybe we pick up this mood, we carry less tension, less negativity with us, and we reflect that as we go. It sort of starts to spinball into something bigger. I did this experiment myself many times, and one of the recent times, I did it for a day, and at the end of the day, at the checkout, the girl gave me a whole bouquet for free because she's like, "Oh, we have the last one. Why don't you have it?" Little things like that that can really sort of like improve your the way you see the world, the way you see people, can really make a difference. So I would anybody interested try doing that for a day or two, and I promise you, you'll get a fantastic result.
Yeah, because I bet that the sort of people who don't notice the good things will if you said jot down all the bad things, they'll be able to do it instantaneously, like within the next hour and stuff like that. But if they prioritize and proper purposefully think about what the good things are happening that day, I think the results would like surprise them a bit and be like, oh, like I'd never normally notice something like that. I'd never normally notice that someone saying hello to me and smiling because I just walked past the headphone.
That's why I always sort of like suggest writing it down because we also have tendency of forgetting good things that happen. We have in our brain we have something called a negativity bias. So we always look at negative. We're attracted to negative
Hmm.
because in that way that it keeps us safe. So if we're attracted to negative, we notice it more. So, coming back again to our reptilian brain will keep us safe because we'll pick up, somebody's being off in a bad mood quicker than somebody in a good mood because good mood gives us pretty much nothing. Bad mood can, like 1,000 years ago could be, some guy that's gonna kill us. So it's good. So for our brain, for our evolution, it's beneficial to sort of like evolve to pick up all the negatives as a priority. So it's good to keep that in mind, and that's why writing good things down does really help because it refocuses your brain a little bit, shifts the perspective a little bit towards the positive, and sort of like anchors it down a little bit.
Yeah, so I think people can mistake people who do see the world in quite a positive light to be a bit like naive and things like that. But I think that people who actively choose to see the world for a better place have probably have probably been through some of the worst shit like imaginable in their life, and they decided to I'm going to look at the world from this direction and things like that. But when I don't know when you see people who do it and they're like so jovial and things like that, I think people can get quite envious of it and sort of
Yeah.
project their own misery onto that person who's enjoying themselves. Like for instance, like when me and Jay have been out in sort of like in bars and things like that, we're the only people on the dance floor dancing, laughing, joking, hugging, whatever. We can see people going, fucking look at them two having a good time, fucking weirdo. And when you strip that sentence back, look at those two having a good time. What? Why?
Isn't the whole purpose? The whole purpose of being there is to have a good time, right?
Yeah, you're in the same place I am. Why are you not having a good time? But it's because they've saw us and envious of the sort of patterns that we have in our head about wanting to have fun and have a good time and stuff, and they're projecting their own sort of self hatred onto someone who's having a good time because ultimately they do want to have a good time, but they just don't fucking know how to.
Exactly. Or they just, denied it to themselves. And well, I won't
Yeah.
do that because, I don't want to be this, jovial, don't want to look naive, some people would say, right? And I'm glad you brought it up because I heard somewhere, I can't recall where, but it said the positive people are not naive. They're the people like they're just reflecting back on what you said, the people that had the hardest time but chose to see the best in people and in life. And I think that's harder. They're usually like you You see somebody smile all the time when you ask them to tell me their life story. Usually it's a pretty heartbreaking story.
Yeah, absolutely. I seen Mike Tyson's got a podcast, like the famous boxer, and his co-host said to him that no one will know the violence it took to become that gentle. And
Exactly.
honestly, it's a mint like little quote that he said, or whatever, but it's true. Like you ask someone who is so positive all the time, and it's like, oh, why are you so positive all the time? It's like, because fucking for 10, 15 years of my life, all I got was negative. And it, like you
Yeah.
say, that choice to want to do better will be harder than the actual legwork itself. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true that it really, really is like proper true.
Yeah, it's a deep one.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's mad. Right, what else do we need to unravel now, Anna?
I think there was another bit I wanted
It
to
was
mention that I
two
forgot.
part. It was the decision paralysis. Why that happened? Why people are reluctant to change? But
That's it. That's it. Thanks for reminding me.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so this is again bringing us back to our, our brains and how we evolve. So any change evokes fear because any change, meaning moving us from status quo, moving us outside the autopilot, thinking, and that all the number one thing that happens is fear, even if it's something that you really want. And I'm sure everybody can relate. You want something, like that instinct, oh my God, I really want this job, or oh my God, I really want to go there. Oh my God, I really want to become that, just like that person I'm seeing on TV. Oh my God, this is my dream. And that's instinct. That's your true self talking to you. This is your inner, like this is your true authentic self. A split second later, there is a flood of, oh, but I'm not good enough. Oh, but what am I thinking? Oh, but why am I even, like considering this? People are gonna think that I'm absolutely mad. My family gonna laugh at me. Just so you say you're absolutely bonkers. You know, and this is fear, and this is there to protect ourselves. It's there to protect us. But if we know the mechanism, there's ways to bypass this. And the best way to bypass this, when you truly want, you are aware that you want change, you're aware that your brain will try to stop you with all sorts of random fears. And it happens to everybody, it happens to me as well. I'm aware of that, I practice that all the time, but it still happens. So whenever that happens and we sort of like notice that, the best way to step away and allow your brain to relax is to tell a story. Don't say it as a fact. Don't say it as, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to make this massive change. The best way to bypass it is sort of tell yourself a story. I wonder, like, maybe one day, like he's telling a story, bedtime story to the kids. It's that basic, On the inside, we're very basic creature, and basically, like, you have to trick yourself, trick your own mind, saying, oh, just once upon a time, maybe I will become this fantastic entrepreneur, and I'll run my own business, and I'll have this, and I'll have that. But it's a story, not a fact, not a to-do list, a story. And when you approach it from the story and you tell yourself that story, if you start listening to yourself, you will notice there is no fear. Your mind completely lets go because our minds are also developed to accept the stories. We've been telling stories for millennia to each other, and we know it's not real. But if it's not real, the brain is like, okay, that reptilian side is like, okay, we don't need to fear anything. There's no change coming. Here's just the story, you know. And I use that a lot in my work as well. We dive deep into this, visualization. This is when, people say, oh, visualization really works. The reason it works is bypasses your fear instinct. It bypasses this part of your brain and goes straight into your creative brain on how to make it happen. Because, the storytelling, the creativity, they all link together. And that's when you don't need to worry. Then you can even set up a plan and to-do list, but from that perspective, entering that.
wow, that is fascinating. So it's like you have to, like you say, that trick your mind, but it's sort of like it's like a what you what like when like you calming like your mind sort of like telling it a story to like calm it down, like you are two separate entities, like your body and your mind, and it's like your
It's
body
like
wants
it's
to
yeah, it's
it.
yeah, it's like you could look at it. from metaphor, like you know, you have a guard dog.
Yeah,
You know, you know the old-fashioned way where people kept on the chain outside the house, and you are the house, and that part of you is the guard dog.
yeah.
And you have to enter the house because you want to sleep in a comfy bed and you want to wake up, you know, have a shower and have a fantastic life and be the best, live your best life, right? But you have to get there somehow. And you have to tiptoe around it. You have to, you know, give it some treats, tell it some stories, and then you're through.
That's mad. That's mad that
But it is
really
almost like a
advice.
separate,
Really good
yeah.
advice. I'm sure people will listen to that and go, "No fucking way!" I just tell myself a story and then I come at it from a different angle. Because when you say I want to go and do X, that creates fear already. But if you tell it in a story, then it bypasses that fear part of the brain that translates it into fear.
That's it. You go, one day I will travel the world and I'll have my own sailboat and I'll have £1 million in the bank account. And if you even say it like right now, there's no resistance in your body. There's nothing tells you that you can't do that. But if you say, okay, so from tomorrow, this is who I'm going to become,
No way. That's mad, honestly.
there is immediate tension. There's immediate, you know, guard dog is there, you know, sort of like looking at you. You better not.
That's mad. That reminds me of a experiment or trick that I had to do in this book called "The Power of Now" by Eckhart Tolle, and it says like close your eyes and then think these words in your head. I wonder what my next thought's going to be. I wonder what my next thought's going to be. And like 90% of people will just say, I was just saying, I wonder what my next thought's going to be. And it's like, well, that's how you know, that's how much you can control your own mind by just think
That's it.
like you're in control, not the other way around. And then I did it,
Yeah.
and I have to turn the page to get like the sort of answer. And it was like, if you thought, I wonder what my next thought's going to be, you've just proven to yourself that you're in control of your own mind and not the other way around. And it was just like a bit of an eye opener, like wow, like yeah, like even though it's constantly going, they're just they're suggestions. You don't have to answer everything that comes into your head. And it was
That's it. Yeah.
they should.
Yeah, this is a great exercise to, you know, bring awareness into what's in your control and what it's not. And it is more in your control than we let to believe. And this is why it's so fascinating working with people. And through coaching mainly, what I do is that I teach people how to access this level of, you know, self-awareness. So then, you know, like long term, it's not something that, you know, coaching is not the work that you do for, you know, for a year or for 2 years or for 5 years. You do it for a period of time when you're with a close support, sort of like led on this journey of self-awareness. And then you're off on your own. And, you know, this is basically like more like a teaching than, you know, anything else. It's being there for the people while they learn themselves again, you know, sort of like discover what they truly are, what their true potential is, and you know, let them out into the world to practice it, so to speak.
Yeah, and hopefully that then becomes a habit, and that becomes their norm, and then sort of your job's done, really, isn't it? It's like another person on the right track. Like, well done, you.
Absolutely. And it's, yeah, it's the most fascinating thing to see people sort of like access that level of awareness and come back to, let's say, you know, we've worked together for a month and come back to the session saying, you know what I've noticed? I've noticed and this is what controls me. Because this is comes from, you know, the, you know, automatic behaviors, automatic thought patterns, automatic, you know, sort of like limiting beliefs that they have. And they're like, oh wow, this is what I've noticed. And it's great because I know then that that person can, you know, just go on and sustain that level, you know, maybe with occasional support from either myself or potentially if there's trauma from other specialists. But that's always encouraging seeing the progress. And it's pretty fast.
I bet it is, and I bet it's very rewarding for like yourself as well because you'll know what it feels like to be stuck, and then on the other end of that as well. So when you see someone who is actually like their eyes are opening, like metaphorically, it must be so rewarding for you that you help that person do it.
Yes, absolutely. It's Definitely incredibly rewarding. Rewarding to see people grow, and through the people, I think I mentioned in the beginning, I grow as well because, whether we like it or not, we attract people with similar things that we're going through or have been through, through working with these people. Sometimes even during the session, afterwards, I'm doing some sort of reflection of what happened. And I think, oh, they mentioned this. Have I ever thought about this angle in my life?
Yeah,
You know, that's not only work, it's not only me, helping other people. It's sort of like a two-way street in the way that I'm also growing through this work, which is, doubly rewarding than
of course it is. Yeah,
the
no, yeah. As much as you're willing to help, you're also open to other things that people can provide to you as well, which is obviously a great mentality to have, because I don't think anyone can sit there and be like, well, I've got all the answers. Like I'll be a life coach. I've got all the answers. I'm stoic as ever. Nothing ever bothers me. I've got no stress in my life. And then you'll tell someone that you got two twin boys who are five, and you're like, yeah, you definitely got that in your life.
It made me laugh when you mentioned the TikTokers. They usually say, "Oh, I wake up. I have kids, but I wake up at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning to do my routine before they wake up at 7." I always laugh because mine wake up at 5 o'clock, just standard. And I did try, just again leading by example. I did try all these techniques that they're trying to preach, and I did try to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. But for some reason, if I do, the children also wake up at the same
Oh,
time.
they
So
know, they know. I think that's
they can sense.
I think they're in tune with mum on that more so than dad,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
my
yeah.
ex missus and I noticed that as well. If she awoke at a proper random time at like 20 past 4, just where you he'd wake up, my little lad. I'd be like, how?
Yeah.
What were
It's almost for me, it's almost like I can feel my brain booting up because obviously you wake up a little bit, and as my brain sort of kicks in, I already hear next, in next door that there's movement there.
they?
They're already
That
awake.
must be some like animalistic thing that we've still not that's still not left. That like when mum's awake, like children are awake type thing. It must be, but
It must be. It's not the first time I've heard because I even seen similar sort of like memes on TikTok where, the same applies. So wake up before kids wake up and you just sit down there, put your book down and the child there appears in front of
yeah.
you. Hello. Yeah.
Honestly, that's so good. No, I know this has been absolutely amazing. Like, thanks so much for your time and your wisdom and your sharing and your honesty and everything. It's been really amazing. So I thought at the end you could maybe sort of give your life coaching business a bit of a shout out to appeal to anyone who may not have seen you on Instagram yet, or who might not know who you are or what you're about. So feel free to do that now, and hopefully we can get you some more clients who you can help.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It was absolute pleasure. It was great having this conversation. And one thing I hope that at least, it will help at least one person to see things differently, or at least start asking questions, maybe hard questions, but nonetheless, get that courage to sort of like embrace the topic. Yeah, for me, for my coaching, I work with anybody that feels a little bit stuck, a little bit out of bound, a little bit disconnected. For people that know and feel they have this potential for growth and bigger than where they are right now, but they're not quite sure how to get to the next level. They're welcome to, message me, have a conversation. I'm always open to having, informal conversations before I work with anybody. Very open to that. I think you have to find the right person when you dealing with such personal matters. So I always make sure that, we are in tune, that have the same values, that we sort of see things the same way and can get you to the result that you really, really want to get to.
Amazing. Amazing. No, it's been really nice to speak to you, Anna, and I hope we can stay in touch and things like that. And yeah, Just thank you again for how much you've supported us since we've started this. It's honestly, it's not going to notice. It's really, really appreciated from like myself and Jay as well.
Oh, fantastic. I'm always glad to support, always glad to see you guys doing your amazing work. Also supporting other people, spreading the word and showing people what, the other things that are out there and starting maybe, like I mentioned, maybe uncomfortable conversations, maybe things that people don't usually talk about. But it's important to talk about this, and I'm glad you guys are doing it so well as well.
Oh, thank you very much. No, we really appreciate that.